Good morning, peeps. Happy Thursday to you. It's Thursday. So, I'm almost halfway through this book by George Orwell called The Road to Wigan Pier. And I hadn't even heard about it until I was watching a video of Jordan Peterson. I like watching Jordan Peterson videos. And he mentions this book. I'd read Animal Farm in 1984, way back when the Dead Sea was just sick, when I was in high school. And they were pretty good. Good in a morbid sense. Very readable. But I haven't read any Orwell since. And halfway through this one, The Road to Wigan Pier is effectively George Orwell's diary almost. So much of what he writes in there, he's transcribed from his diary. It's notes from his diary from when he actually visits Wigan and a few other northern towns in northern England. And he is deliberately spending his time in the lower echelons of society in northern England. He is living with the miners, the coal miners, their families. He's living with people in the squalid conditions that they had back then, in order to document what's actually going on, because he's aware that he hadn't. I imagine he probably did it because he realized he didn't actually know what their lives were like. The only way to find out was to go and live with them, whereas most people never made the effort. So he documents it, and it's pretty damning about the political scene in the UK at the time and how little regard most people had for the coal miners, and they were effectively creating the energy that the rest of the country ran on, and nobody appreciated them. But he's also writing about it from his own viewpoint as a committed and avowed socialist. And he documents some of the efforts that socialist-leaning authorities had gone to try and better the lives of the poor and the down and out, the downtrodden. And I'm only at about, I'm not quite halfway through the book. The reaction I initially had reading it was, well, I'm reading this 80, 85 years later. Socialism hasn't really done a whole lot, has it? And I had this thought running through my head this morning, and almost immediately it reminded me of some articles I've read, where there are left-leaning, people are demonstrations, activists, whatever, where they were clearly trying to promote socialism, probably in the US, I'm not sure. And I remember seeing some of these statements, people saying, capitalism clearly hasn't worked, has it? And I really thought, okay, this is an example of extreme sensitivity to initial conditions, if you'll pardon the academic term for it. The point from which you start indelibly affects the conclusions you reach. If you were running a 100-meter dash and you start 2 meters closer to the finish line than everybody else, well, that'll influence your result, won't it? Similarly, if you line up 2 meters behind the start line. And it made me think, socialism clearly hasn't worked, has it? Capitalism clearly hasn't worked, has it? That's an example. Those are examples of bad questions, because really they're not questions at all. They just happen to have a question mark in them. It's an attempt at rhetoric, and a bad one at that. And it's all left me thinking that before I badmouth socialism or capitalism or anything, I need to pause and suspend judgment. The things that make life worthwhile, I've sort of realized, don't have any isms in them. You know, the times when the happiest memories I have tended to come sitting in a pub on a Friday night with some mates, having a few pints. Somebody gets out a guitar maybe or starts singing, hopefully before too many pints have been consumed. Nothing's worse than a drunk who thinks he can sing well. Well, it provides some temporary entertainment, just it's very temporary. You know, taking your wife and kids shopping on a Saturday, well, that makes life worthwhile. I sort of hate shopping. Well, no, I don't hate shopping. It just doesn't rank up there with my top 10 favorite activities to do. But taking your wife and kids shopping and seeing the smiles on the kids' faces when you bought them something they really want. Singing the praises of God on Sunday or Saturday or Friday or Thursday, I don't know, whatever. Those are the things that make life worthwhile. They don't have any isms in them. You stick isms in them, you're forgetting something. The things that make life worthwhile have love mixed in them. Appreciation, gratitude. Deliberate, conscious gratitude. Socialism hasn't worked, clearly hasn't worked, has it? That's an example of an answer. And questions are better than answers. Don't be in a hurry to reach the answers. Easier said than done. We're human. We far prefer answers because then we feel like we've got life by the tail. We've got it all figured out. We never do. Never will. Stick with the questions. So has socialism worked at all? Anywhere? Has capitalism worked at all? Anywhere? I'm not going to hurry to answer that. I'm going to think about it. I'm not going to hurry to answer the questions. I have my opinion at the moment, but I'm not going to tell you because I'm going to suspend judgment and wait and see. Another thing that makes life worthwhile is choosing to think positively. Positive mental attitude, as W. Clement Stone used to. I think he was famous for coining that phrase. It's really funny. A couple of weeks ago, I downloaded a book on my Kindle called it's either The Strangest Secret or The Strange Secret. I forget exactly. Earl Nightingale. Good read, short, and all about choosing to think positively and focus on a goal. You do it first thing in the morning and then last thing at night before you fall asleep. That's when your mind, your subconscious or unconscious mind, is most amenable to being reprogrammed. And you're the one doing the programming. And I read the book very, very quickly. And later that day, I bump into this really interesting guy. I think I might have mentioned a while ago, I've started a meetup here in town called Side Hustle Ottawa. We just had our second meetup earlier this week. And this chap shows up at the first one. His name is Bill Rabow, Rabow. Fascinating guy. He's just released a podcast that I'll happily point you to. It's called How to Live a Great Life. And he's releasing podcasts bit by bit. As I'm recording this, he's only just released episode 3, but the first 3 episodes are just super, super listening. They're short too, only 5, 6, 7 minutes long. And he's going to release a book by the same title, How to Live a Great Life. And his story, I won't tell you. I'll just you listen to it yourself. His story is fascinating. He's had some serious knocks in life. And it's all how he has turned his life around, all by doing this, by reprogramming and changing what's up here. Bill Rabow is his name, How to Live a Great Life. The podcast has just been released on Apple. Apple Podcasts. I imagine it's probably out on some of the Android apps, Stitcher and SoundCloud. I'm not sure. I haven't checked, but if it isn't there yet, it will be soon. By choosing to think positively and apply the law of attraction, that's really what Bill Rabow is going to talk about, the law of attraction. What you're really doing is forcing yourself to think about what it is you want and not about what you don't want. There are always going to be things that you don't want, that I don't want, but you don't focus your mind on them. Choose to focus on what you do want, and that is actually hard. Simple, but hard to do. Takes some time, but it's also extremely satisfying and worthwhile. And I figure if I do that, then I might possibly come by an answer or two that are worth sticking a stake in the ground on. Don't know. All right, I've rambled a little bit away from what I started on, but don't be in too big a hurry to reach a conclusion. Ask the big questions, but don't hurry to answer them. Think about them. Listen. Listen to yourself. Listen to what other people say as well. Have a great life. Kirk out.